Welcome back to Broadcast Brains at SEMPTI 2017. For this segment, we're talking about AVID's latest storage system, Nexus. And to help us with that, David Woodward from AVID. Thanks for coming on board.
Oh, thank you, James.
Now, AVID's had a really long history in shared storage systems, from the original Unity, then through ISIS, and now across to Nexus. And I was just wondering if you'd be able to give us a little bit of an overview of, I suppose, the design philosophy behind the new Nexus storage system.
Yeah, sure. So you're right, there has been quite a long legacy. The Unity Media Network was our first virtualized storage system created for the media industry and for media applications. That evolved with the release of with ISIS rather, and we've had ISIS on the market for quite a long time, enhancing that virtualized technology. And now we move to Nexus, which is a more adaptable and elastic type of storage, where we can really expand and contract depending on business or production requirements very easily and effectively. So what we've done is we've designed the Nexus file system to be applicable to not only hardware but also for future use in other applications. The core of that technology in the file system itself, at the time of release of Nexus, which was several months ago, we've put that on OEM non-proprietary hardware, which is a step away from what we've done in the past. Basically wanting to leverage existing OEM hardware, being able to provide that extensible, lower cost file system to our users and give them that adaptability and flexibility that they need.
Great. Now, on our stand here at SEMPTI, we have Nexus over here. So when we talk about from a hardware point of view, what we see here, these are actually two of the AVID Nexus Pro chassis. We see about 40 raw terabytes of usable raw storage here, and just around the 32 terabytes of usable. Now, we've seen quite a bit of development in the Nexus file system over time. So, Dave, you can just give us a little bit more information on where we sit with the latest software releases and some of the new features that we get with the Nexus file system.
Yeah, so what we've developed most recently are high-performance storage groups, which is a really exciting feature that's been added. Historically, AVID has always absolutely committed to the metrics we lay down in relation to bandwidth available, capacity, what you can actually do with the client software. So the most recent feature added is a bump in bandwidth from 400 megabytes per second to 600 megabytes per second, configurable as a high-performance storage group through the Nexus Management Console, which really allows the use of applications that require that higher bandwidth. So if you're looking at 4K UHD workflows, if you're looking at workflows with applications that require that additional bandwidth, we're really catering for every need within media across any application you might want.
Now, one of the things here with the bandwidth, we're talking about this bandwidth per chassis. So if we put two of them together, we've got double the number, haven't we?
Precisely, precisely. So in the previous versions of Nexus software, you would have 400 megabytes per second, 400 megabytes per second. It's now 600 per chassis if configured in that way, giving you 1200 in total.
So 1200 megabytes per second, we have a system here that takes up 4 rack units. And we can also run this with a whole range of different edit systems. So I think one thing that we can look at here is it just Media Composer it runs with?
Certainly not. So the file system has been designed for any media application. AVID has had a strong focus on probably the most commonly used initially to qualify on Nexus. I think one of the interesting things that Videocraft has done here on the booth is you've set up the display here, which shows all of the applications which are qualified for use on Nexus. So here on display, you've got Media Composer, you've got Pro Tools, both from AVID, you've got Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro X, and DaVinci Resolve. So it's really showing that this is the storage that can deliver for any of the media applications broadly used within the industry.
Well, certainly from our experience with Nexus and even previous ISIS, we've found the AVID file system in all these different packages over time to be basically the most reliable, most resilient system that we've worked with. And the projects right now, we're certainly doing a lot of stuff with Media Composer and Pro Tools, which we have traditionally. We're also doing quite a bit more with Adobe Premiere. So I think it's really important that people understand that we're not, this AVID brand doesn't mean that it just works with Pro Tools or Media Composer, that it works with everything. Now, AVID test these other applications, don't they?
We do. So we have a Scalar lab, which is based at our headquarters in the US, where we have a number of Nexus chassis. We've used the same Scalar lab for the ISIS systems previously, and we have hundreds of seats of workstations where we run the client applications and really throttle the system to make sure that the spec we're laying down, the spec we're documenting, we will absolutely commit to.
Yeah, and this is really key because it's one thing to say that it works, but I note with AVID, when we go and get our new Nexus performance guidelines, we get for Media Composer, we'll get with Adobe, we'll get with Final Cut. AVID are pretty upfront with what it will do, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And the level of documentation around what we are capable of based on that testing is really quite high. You know, we've always tried to do that to make sure that we will document upon release of the product what it will do, what we will commit to. None of it is theoretical. It's all tested, it's all proven, and we will absolutely commit to that.
Sure. Now, for anyone who's interested in what we're actually showing here at the show, we do have the two Nexus Pro chassis here. For the way we've set this up, we're actually using a Dell switch to connect it through, and there's quite a range of supported switches to go and work here. But now, Nexus in this respect is all Ethernet based, so it's quite easy for someone to even use existing cable infrastructure to wire up a whole post facility, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so anyone that has existing network infrastructure, gigabit Ethernet, can certainly pop into Nexus and have your clients editing on Nexus. The switches that we do qualify range from quite cost-effective entry-level switches all the way up to enterprise-class switches.
Certainly, and that's been really good for us that we can make all these decisions and I suppose for budgets on what networks we run. For this particular show, we've been connecting all of the clients via 1 gigabit Ethernet connections, and I think it's interesting how much you can actually get out of a 1 gigabit connection. And people forget, you see, well, you used to plug in your home computer, but we're editing multiple streams of HD with a 1 gigabit connection, which can also, even for general editing applications for broadcast, is in a lot of cases all you need, isn't it?
Yeah, generally it's more than enough. It's really when you go to those high performance workflows, if you're looking at UHD or 4K, where you may need some more bandwidth, where we do support 10 gig client connections as well, dual gigabit Ethernet. But day to day, for most formats, most of the media that people are dealing with in general, 1 gigabit's more than enough.
Sure. Now, what we're talking about here and what we're showing here is the Nexus Pro. These aren't the only models in the range, so maybe tell us a little bit more about some of the other hardware choices in the Nexus hardware range.
Yeah, so the Nexus Pro is, I guess, the entry-level Nexus. We can scale up to 4 Nexus Pros within a storage group. If the requirement for either capacity or bandwidth exceeds that, we do have enterprise-class Nexus. They come in a 2RU and a 4RU unit. There is also a 5RU unit, which is higher density when massive amounts of capacity are required. So the enterprise class is scalable up to 48 media packs. Now, a media pack is the 10 drives which sits within the 2RU, and we've broken it down into these media packs for ease of scalability. So as you need to expand your system, you can add additional chassis, additional media packs to suit your needs. Those media packs come in 20 terabyte or 60 terabyte options, and you can scale up to 48 of them. So that's masses of bandwidth when you're talking about either 400 or 600 megabytes per second per media pack. That's
a massive system. I think if we had 48 media packs, It's a lot of ones and zeros to keep, and I'd hate to be viewing all that material.
Or managing it.
Absolutely. But really the big thing here for the amount of storage is not necessarily for HD. This is more to do with Ultra HD for 4K, 60 frames per second and that sort of stuff, where we're chewing through 5 to 10 times the amount of bandwidth or the amount of storage per minute than we would have been previously. So it wasn't that long ago when we thought that having 60 terabytes was an amazing amount of storage, and now we seem to be able to fill that in a matter of weeks, or some of our clients seem to. So our needs change over time. So I suppose with Nexus, with its scalability, has certainly taken that to another level as well.
Yeah, and it's really future-proofing your workflow. Being able to commit to HD projects at the moment, HD productions, but having that option to be able to scale up in capacity and bandwidth to accommodate for those 4K UHD, which are, becoming a bit more frequent now.
Yep, absolutely. Well, David, thanks for your time here in the stand today. I think we've covered off Nexus quite well. It's certainly from our point of view, it's been a fantastic file system and a really easy product to manage. So thanks very much for your time, and have a great show.
Okay, thank you, James.
Thank you.